We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio News Talk, 1180, 1410 KERI, 1230 KGEO, and now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and now on the internet station KNOOK, KNOOK, media.com in Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're doing a tribute today to for Veterans Day. This is Veterans Day weekend. And our second guest is a gentleman I had the pleasure of meeting not too long ago, a local gentleman, Jim Escalle, who wrote a great book. I'm really, really enjoying this, called The Unforgotten Hero, Remembering a Fighter Pilot's Life, War, and Ultimate Sacrifice. This book just came out about 2 months ago. I highly recommend it. It's very, very interesting and entertaining reading. Jim, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Well, thank you, Marty, for having me on here.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about who is this young man I see getting into this plane?
Well, he was my
War.
uncle.
Uh-huh.
He was about 22 years old when the picture was taken. And it's someone I never had the pleasure of meeting because he disappeared in Korea about 6 years before I was born. And I had when I discovered who he was, I was kind of when I was about 8 years old. I was kind of going through my parents' dresser drawers. Now I shouldn't have been there in the first place, but I was kind of going through and I discovered this old, small black and white photograph of a pilot wearing a flight helmet and goggles. I was very interested because I was into aviation at that time. And I asked my mom, I said, who is this guy, And she said, oh, that's your Uncle Jimmy. And he was in the Air Force, but he never came home from the Korean War. I said, oh. And then she said, well, we named you in honor of him. And that kind of sparked my curiosity really big, And so I need to know who this guy is. Mm-hmm. So from that point on, I went in search of his life and see if I could put the pieces together. It was like a big, one big puzzle piece.
Sure.
Or one big puzzle that I was trying to put the pieces into. And I knew I was going to have a hard time. Mm-hmm. But I was kind of determined. I don't figure how long it would take,
Sure.
short time or even years if necessary. But I want to figure who this guy was that I was named after.
How long did it take you to put this story together?
You're talking about the book?
Well, not the book, but, as far as the amount of time, to put together his life and
Oh, it took many years because this is way back, before electronics, before the internet and stuff. So I took little piece. The only thing I had to go on was maybe some pictures that my parents had. I had some information, some scrapbook photos, that kind of thing. But then later on, about a year or so after that, I visited my grandfather. Now, he had most of the stuff at his house, but I had the opportunity to ask him when I helped him out when I helped him on the farm. For example, during the summer times, I come back to his house in the afternoon. I said, "Well, was there any medals?" Very curious. I said, "Did he get any medals in Korea?" So he went back into his bedroom, brought out 3 leather-bound cases. I said, "Oh wow!" And I was looking at these medals. One said Air Medal, one has Soldier's Medal, and one, of course, with a Purple Heart. I was very curious. I just wondered, well, how did he win these things? How, I wanted to cut more information. Now, he was very reluctant at the time because they probably figured I was kind of young. I wouldn't kind of, know the information if he did give it to me. But over time, I'd be able to, find out for myself, hopefully. And then, of course, when he died, and he died in 1979, by the way. And
your grandpa,
my grandfather, yeah. And my parents got all the, all the stuff that was, including all my uncle's information, photos, including that was some pilot training, his class pilot training books.
Sure.
So I looked through these things, I said, man, these are like old pictures of these guys, young, in their 20s. I said, if they could only jump out of the page and talk to me.
Sure. Because
they trained with my uncle. They flew with my uncle, They'd have information to give me real fast.
Did you get to meet any of the people that he flew with?
Well, I did, but if you fast forward this to 2001, that's when I bought my first computer. And that's when I was introduced to the world of the internet for the first time, and the research took off globally.
Sure.
Yeah, I met a lot of his training, his people he flew with in training, talked to him on the phone, contacted him, email. In fact, this is not for training, but in Korea, I also contacted some of those guys. And one was his flight
instructor,
commander, his flight commander in Korea. And he said, well, he sent me a letter. I said, wow, how'd you find me? I said, well, I use the internet, just track you down, send out, tons of letters to everybody. And a few said, no, I'm not him. Some said, yes, I am. Oh, I don't remember. But, it went on and on. But one was his flight leader. And he said, well, I'm not sure if such and such is still alive, but would you be able to kind of track this person down? So I contacted his friend in Korea also, and they haven't met with him for 50 years.
Wow.
So this friend contacted him, called him on the phone, and like I said, it's been 50 years since they met one another, talked to one another.
Yeah. Our in-studio guest is Jim Escalle, who wrote an excellent book called Unforgotten Hero, Remembering a Fighter Pilot's Life, War, and Ultimate Sacrifice. You know, Jim, it's interesting. I wrote a book about 20 years ago, before the Internet.
Yeah.
And I can remember spending a lot of nights in Cal State Northridge. I lived in that area. I lived in Thousand Oaks. But their library was open till midnight. I was going through the old...
the card system.
The old card system,
Yeah.
but they had that old...
Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah, the Dewey Decimal, but there was that microfiche, the old
okay.
microfiche
Yeah.
system, where you're looking at old magazines on microfiche. And then now with the Internet, it's totally different. You can reach out to people, like you say, the commander that,
Yeah, you could do it almost instantaneously, too, really quick.
Yeah. Now, as far as... I know your grandpa, there was a great chapter here about your grandpa, and was he hesitant to talk about it because of your age, or was it just the memory of it? Or
Well, when my uncle first disappeared, I mean, my grandfather, he took it really hard, and he was just, he didn't talk to anybody in the community. He was just very depressed. He started drinking heavily, that kind of, which he never really did on a regular basis.
Sure.
He was just depressed. It took him a long time to get out of that. So when I came along, it could have been my age. Maybe he thought I was too young to understand all of this stuff. But he was kind of, he was proud of my uncle, but he was kind of hesitant at the same time, really, to get back into, the information and stuff. Kind of, I'm sure it probably hurt him when he thinks about it.
It brings it all back up.
Yeah.
Sure, that would be tough. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. Now was your dad in the military as well, or?
Yeah, my dad followed in my uncle's footsteps, and they're about 14 months apart. But he wanted to be a pilot too. Of course, whatever my uncle did, my dad was like sure to follow, kind of thing. They were inseparable growing up. And then high school, they had their own friends, but they, whatever my uncle did, my dad was sure to follow. He wanted to do whatever my uncle did. Brothers. So he went in the Air Force. He became a fighter pilot as well. Of course, there's one time because my dad was I would say married my mom. He was engaged, in college, and so my uncle found out about it, because he was going to go through, become a pilot and stuff. She said, "Oh, you want to get married, huh?" And he said, "Yeah." You want to get married right now? And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, if you want to become a pilot and you couldn't be married, during the aviation cadet program, one of the golden rules was you have to be single and stay single throughout the whole program."
Oh, you're kidding me! I didn't know that.
Or you get booted out.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Some were married, but instructors, they kind of kept the hush hush. But he said, "Okay." He said, "Here, you got two choices." He sent a letter to my dad. He said, "You got two choices. Either you get married, and you get, they get drafted, go to Korea, and spend your entire tour in a smelly foxhole, crouched down, whatever, or you could wait a year, wait to get married, go through the cadet program, go through the pilot training, and maybe go over there and get the opportunity to shoot down a MiG, possibly." So that was he quickly forgot the marriage. He put that off for a whole year.
Wow. So, but your dad. So was your dad in the service when he got married?
Well, yeah, he graduated through pilot training, took the year, and then he got married like a week later.
Oh, great.
So then he spent a tour in the Air Force as a fighter pilot
in Korea.
No, the Korean War was over, but he was in gunnery training still. So he wanted to go to Korea, but the armistice was signed, and so they sent him to Morocco instead.
Okay, so he didn't have that same combat experience.
No, he wanted to. He was hoping to go to Korea.
Yeah, because the Korean War was over in 1953. I'm a couple years older than you, but my dad fought in World War II and in the Korean War. So for the Canadians. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the Canadian side. Yeah, my dad's still around. So your uncle wasn't married at all?
No, he never got married. He put his priorities. He said, "I want my career first," and all that kind of stuff. So he was still single. He's getting a relationship going, but he said, "Wait till I come back. I'll come back from Korea first."
Now, were you in the military at all?
No, I almost went. I went to college. I said, "Well, I wasn't doing too good in school," so I thought maybe I'll just join the Air Force, like my dad. So I talked to a recruiter and took the test and whatever. But then I said, "Well," my mom said, 4 years is a long time,
Yeah.
I said, "Well," I said, "Okay, maybe I'll change." So I went back to college and finished my college career and stuff.
Yeah, take it from there.
Yep.
When we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit more about your uncle and his service and what happened to him in Korea.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio News Talk 1180.